All right, everyone. It looks like things are going to be heating up over in Israel fairly soon. The Egyptians are certainly taking it seriously because they've built a 2-mile wide border zone, actually, on the Sinai Peninsula now. They're digging in and building walls and fortifications and stuff like that. Now, the reason Egypt tends to get along generally with Israel. They try to be fairly neutral, but they tend to be rather amenable because they don't want no problems with the Israelis. They had problems with them before. It became a hot issue. The Israelis invading, actually, and pushing them back at one point. Egyptian military is quite large, reasonably sophisticated, has fairly modern weaponry and everything else. But they're averse to the concept of war. What they don't want is several million Palestinians settling in the Sinai Peninsula. And the reason why is quite clear, because the Palestinian body politic at large would tend to lean in the direction of like the Muslim Brotherhood and other similar groups, and the rather secular government of Egypt that managed to restore order after Obama tried to overthrow their country and upend their constitution in favor of Sharia law, actually. They don't want that. They don't want any refugees. Israel has already seized the border crossing itself and is controlling it largely in an autonomous fashion. But the Egyptians are building fortifications because if shit hits the fan in Rafah, you're going to have a mass refugee movement. I mean, there's nowhere in Gaza that the Palestinians reasonably can be expected to go and have shelter and access to aid and stuff other than where they currently are. But Netanyahu is trying to evacuate Rafah and that zone along the border in order to pound Hamas some more. They want to get the civilians out. The international community is already largely condemning Israel for the amount of deaths that have already been caused to civilians, and so they're trying to limit that. But Netanyahu is between a cock and a hard place because he's already promised the Israeli people this is the end for Hamas. While that's not going to be achieved, if he can really grab up a few thousand more Hamas fighters and display them on pikes or something like that, Vlad the Impaler style, he can get reelected, basically. It's partially a political move. Again, disclaimer, I'm not Team Palestine or Team Israel. I'm just giving analysis here. But the Egyptians are realizing, oh shit, I think that he's serious. Well, if he starts emptying out this city in which over 1 million people are internally displaced, they may attempt to come across into Egypt. And if they storm the border all at once, and there's no significant physical impediment to them doing so, they will be successful. We can't shoot them all. We can't drive them back with less than lethal means because we don't have the capability to deal with that kind of crowd control. 10,000 people, no problem. 1 million to 1.5 million people, that might be a little bit difficult. We don't have the means. So we're simply going to put up as many physical barriers as we possibly can to dissuade them from attempting to come across, inadvertently leading to a situation where the unevacuated civilians, when the shooting starts, will scatter across Gaza and hopefully be able to be aided by international groups, but they'll be even more internally displaced. All those other cities have taken heavy damage from IDF bombs at this point, as well as damage from Hamas fighting. When you launch an IED and blow something up, some projectiles may hit surrounding buildings, and considering the quality of construction of some of those buildings, sometimes they collapse. The underground tunnel network is now flooding. I think Israel is still doing that. It's going to take a while because, it's so vast. Where are people supposed to go? You don't have to be Team Palestine or certainly support Hamas or anything. You don't even have to have any strong beliefs about, a Palestinian people. They're being imperialized and colonized and shit. Even if you don't have such thoughts, where else are they going to go? Like, literally, the only place they could possibly flee to that hasn't been bombed to shit is Egypt. They can't flee into Israel. There's nowhere else to go in Gaza that they can go. This is 2.3 million people. Well, probably 2.2 million now because of the number of casualties, but it's a significant number of people. It's several times the population of Boston. It's a large number. It's like the population of Manhattan, I think, or something like that, crowded into this area. The Egyptians are unwilling to deal with it for political purposes, though, because they don't want a bunch of people to come in, generally support the opposition, the hyper-Islamic opposition in Egypt and maybe overthrow the government. And that added manpower, the Muslim Brotherhood would love to recruit, half of Gaza. And a lot of these are rather young people. About 40% of the population is under 18. It's a young population. So you have a lot of potential fighters to extract from. You could end up with the overrunning of the Egyptian political system. You could end up with the overrunning of the Egyptian military, and they want stability because they already had the instability that they had last decade with Obama's crap and the Arab Spring and things like that. And they don't want none of that. So they're fortifying their border. Again, this is more than walls. This is walls and razor wire and everything else that would be commensurate with digging in your position and saying, we're getting uncomfortable. Hey, Israel, can you shorten up this war and do something about this? Because if these people start filtering into the Sinai and become our responsibility, all fucking hell is going to break loose. It's a significant number of people. Again, we're not going to be able to shoot them in general. Maybe a couple of them are Hamas fighters. They've got guns or something. You shoot them. But we're not going to be able to do anything about the civilian population. And they're not going to be able to go back to Gaza because you've bombed it into scrap, basically. They can't enter Israel. They're between the devil and the deep blue sea. Egypt is the only safe place that they could go, but we don't want them. Egypt does not want it. It got to the point where there was an unofficial pitch by the Israelis. Apparently, they were seriously considering the idea of paying off all of Egypt's debt, everything, making all of the books right, giving them a surplus economy if they would just take, the Gazans in, or some number of the Gazans in. Again, up to 2.2 million people. Egypt appears to be saying no to that general proposition. I'm really wondering how this is going to end, because as Israel begins its assault into Rafah, if there's nowhere else to go other than the wreckage that's already been left in the rest of the country, and the IDF, I don't know if they've got the means to even filter all these people through to try to remove the Hamas members and kill them or imprison them. Also, I'm not sure how they would imprison that many people. It'd still be about 25,000. I don't know that Israel has enough prison space for that. It's not clear that it's feasible in a physical manner. Like, let's just be pragmatic here. Morals aside, morals have to be secondary. Pragmatically speaking, no matter what you think about Hamas, how do you actually get the Hamas members when they've blended in with the civilian population, a civilian population that's basically at the breaking point already, in an area where there's no habitable place other than the place you're currently trying to evacuate so you can bomb it? Pragmatically speaking, I don't see a good way out for this. I see a massacre, basically. I see the mass death of tens or maybe even hundreds of thousands of people. And Egypt has the right to guard its border, but we do have to recognize if people in Palestine can't flee there, there's really nowhere else for them to go. It's very unfortunate that all of this is happening, because Western leadership, if it were competent, would have been able to forestall this and prevent it from occurring to begin with. That's about all. Peace out.